What's the number where you couldn't avoid him? Gets to 45? 75? Okay. Yeah. What if he gets to 50? Are you clicking?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I can get there on Goddard. I'd rather bet Goddard at like the Open, I think makes more sense. The US Open. I think he might be a good Augusta player one day, but in his debut, that is a bit tricky for me. However, I would think about, you mentioned Akshay, you mentioned Bobby Mack, Adam Scott. I think those would be the three guys along with Nikolai Højgaard, the four. I don't know if I'm going to get there outright with them, but from the non-Fitz, Cam Young, Rahm, and Xander tier, I think those would be the other four guys that I like this week.
Can I make a case for a guy I was expecting you to make a case for?
Sure. No, can't do it.
At Mayo Experience.
Welcome to day 2 of the PME Masters Week, the research show. We're going to walk through the model. We're going to go player by player and try to find ourselves a winner, or at least some guys close to the top of the leaderboard, and hopefully we get a little bit lucky at the Masters. You know what to do if you want to get in the draw for the $2,000 or more HELIX mattress that's being given away this week. Cash prizes, golf balls. Hit the description. Find every single way that you can get ballots in the draw. Joining me on the line, his article just dropped at betspertsgolf.com. Ryan Noonan, how is it going? You write one of my favorite player-by-player articles every single year. I might even repurpose your article with my own like snarky comments underneath in my newsletter.
Love it. Happy to be here, Pat. It is my favorite piece of content that I do every year. I think we rightfully put this place up on a pedestal in this event. Just starts major championship golf season. I love all the pomp and circumstances that come along with it. So thrilled to be here to break down the entire field. I mean, I got 3 paragraphs on Brian Campbell if somehow people want to like digest that here. So we got everything covered.
All right, you tell me right now about Charles Schwartzel.
Leading form random a couple years ago and actually popped. Leading form is pretty bad. So if you're chasing Schwartzel, it's course history only. It's almost never course history only, though again, most sticky course history probably anywhere that we go to would be here, but I don't want anything to do with Schwartzel this year.
Waialae, pretty sticky as well.
True. Yeah. Because some of the early season events, I think we got a couple of, course history spots, but nothing more so than the Masters.
No. And if you want to know more about the live guys, we'll go through the top end guys on this show, the ones that you should be interested in. But if you're curious about hearing about all of them, tomorrow, Saturday on the Pat Mayo Experience, Feinberg and I are going over the Masters pool, which you can play with your dad if you want to. We're building the tiers for that. And then you guys get to play in the game. There's $1,500 to first place. And then Matt Vincenzi of Live joins me, who's been traveling on the road with the Live Tour all year. He's been in Singapore. He's been in South Africa to talk a little bit about those events, but really trying to hammer down on, outside of Rahm and Bryson, which guys could we potentially be giving a look at the year's first major. But what I want to do now is build out a model. You can always hit the time codes, go through everything. As always, betspertsgolf.com/Mayo get you 25% off the rabbit hole. And if you get that sub this week, obviously you get all of the Masters, which you can see on the screen right now. You'll also get 250 ballots in that draw for the cash, for the mattress, for the golf balls, whatever it might be. Noonan, have you built out a model yet?
Built out an Augusta model. Feel pretty good about it. Did not turn it on for the experts, but I can.
You can't do that for us as I try to go through. You know what? How about this? You keep your secret. People can log in and find yours. I want to build one out with you right now because there are certain things every year that I want to put in mind, and I want to see if it kind of jives with what you're looking for. So I think that course history is probably the first thing that we need to look at, right?
Could not agree more. It's got to be a foundational piece. Yeah, I like to include it occasionally, like we touched on some West Coast swing stuff. Wallace's a great example, but this is a spot where we got to go back to 79. This is the last time before you or I were born, that we had a winner. Now we have had a few guys that come here in the first go round. Jordan Spieth, even Will Zalatoris, guys that like pop and, have top fives, but to win, you got to have some experience.
Yeah, bad news for Chris Goddard. So the other 2 shows I have coming up this weekend, the Masters pool, and then I have a trends show where we're looking back at the more fun trends. Always on the lookout. We got Masters content coming every day. Do you think 4 years or 5 years is enough to go back?
5 is probably pretty good.
All right, let's go. Past 5 years. Now, when you put this in the model on the rabbit hole, did you use strokes gained total, tee to green, or did you go to the finishing position tab and go to average finish?
I love that we have lots of options for you. I think that you should probably go total because now thing. So if I was like course history, I'd probably just in general. But I think for this event, I think we want to go total.
All right, we'll click on the Augusta National filter so we know what course we're dealing with. So if people for reference are looking for the most strokes gained total per round of any player in the field, it's Scottie, Ludvig, Morikawa. More on him later. Patrick Reed and Xander. Did you know right now at coolbet.com, Ryan, unfortunately, you're not in Canada outside of Ontario, but there is a PME exclusives tab at coolbet.com right now, and you can get a bonus as well if you hit the description. But just taking a look at what we have going on over there, you can find the PME weekly boost, and you go there right now, and you can find until Monday, if you're watching this on the weekend, Xander Schauffele to win the Masters 27-1.
Well, I don't want to jump too far ahead of it, but I might need to get the Venmo. We might have to figure out how to make sure that happens.
I'm going to have more boosts as the weeks, as Monday, as the odds reset. But for right now, throughout the weekend, that 27-1 number is going to be up at coolbet.com. If you're in Canada, outside of Ontario, hit the description, get the direct link to those boosts and your bonus deposit, and you'll be good to go. But yeah, I mean, I have it narrowed down as we're looking at it right now. So Xander's 5th there. Rahm is there. Rory, Hideki, Cam Smith, Matt McCarty, shockingly enough, is up there. He just got added to the field overall, so he's going to be playing once again. He only has the 4 rounds. He played really well a year ago. Justin Rose, Jordan Spieth, Davis Riley, Corey Connors, Tommy Fleetwood, Victor Hovland, Shane Lowry. There's a couple guys in this tournament that I forgot were in the tournament. Davis Riley and Carlos Ortiz in specific, because of their finish at the PGA Championship and the U.S. Open. Totally forgot they had good majors.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I mean, the Davis Riley, this is back-to-back years that he's done this, because if you remember, he held off Scottie at Colonial in 24 to earn his way into last year's event. So, like, you look at some of the guys that are on the outside looking in this year that have not made it, that just are significantly better. And again, it's just a really unique way to go about qualifying for this event. But to have Davis Riley, who has really not sniffed a top 20 for the better part of 2.5 seasons, making back-to-back master starts is absolutely wild.
So if you want to add it to the model, you just hit this plus button next to strokes gained total. We'll put an SG total. Total Augusta past 5 years. So now we know what we're dealing with once we click over to that tab a little bit later on. What would be the next thing that you would go to as we reset the filters on the rabbit hole? I would say recent form is now the second most pressing thing we need to look at.
Yeah, and then that's, I think, an interesting question. I think tough to model too. So how would you, in a general sense, typically capture recent form?
I would probably just go to strokes gained total for the year.
Okay.
I think that's probably the easiest way to give you a better sample of what's going on, because some guys will have good finishes, bad finishes, good fields, bad fields. This will give you a bit of a different situation of trying to average that out. If we go to finishing position, we can put in top 10 percentage. We can put in top 20 percentage. And whether it's win percentage, top 10 percentage, this could be a good way to filter people out. Because as we know, that you're going to have, when we do the trend show, guys who have either won throughout the course of the season, that's generally been the best predictor, that you have to have a win somewhere in the calendar year, or you have like 3 top 10s that you've done going in. So I think that there's different ways that we can adjust this. Like we could go to the total tab and we can say, hey, wins. Let's make wins a category of players in this field, weighted at like 2%, and then throw in top 10s. And the more top 10s you have, the better off you're going to be. There's just so many different ways that we can do it. What would you like to go for?
Yeah, I think that's good. Actually, my brain didn't even go that way. So I think that's, again, the beauty of this tool is there's so many different ways to do it. I think the way that we can do it here that would make sense, that would allow us to make sure we capture a little bit of the live guys. Now, again, we're not going to get their normal events. We're not going to get their 2026 data.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on though. I don't think that we need to capture the live guys in this. Just know that Rahm is a better play than Bryson. They're both probably good plays.
Kind of agree with that. I think Hatton is also interesting, and we can get to that when we get to the player by player run. That's fine. I would look at 2026 data, and then I would probably look at, strokes gained total, strokes gained tee to green versus, wins or top tens. But I also think there's some trends on, some of those strong finishes that we need to have happened here previously too. So I'm not a big trends guy. I do think this is one of the spots where there are some interesting trends. I mean, there's a good one, like Ron caught it. PGA Splits 101. I think he already tweeted it out. If he hasn't, he will. I think the lead in 4 events, arbitrary 18 strokes gained tee to green over the 4 lead-in events has captured 15 of the last 15 winners. Now, again, in almost dramatic fashion, Justin Rose punched a hole in that last year because he had negative 3.97 strokes gained tee to green as lead-in form. But again, he didn't. So almost, as Ron pointed out to me, only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. But, it is arbitrary, but that kind of would, be an interesting trend to look at. If you just look at, say, last 16 rounds over the last 3 months, you're going to get strokes gained tee to green. The threshold would be 18, and it leads us to about 10 guys.
Well, one of the guys that I'm going to be betting with no chance to win this week is number 1. That Akshay comes in number 1 in that metric. So it's Akshay, Bridgman.
Well, tee to green. So search by tee to green.
Search by tee to green. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
18 strokes. Yeah.
Morikawa, Rory, Fitz, Tommy, and Cam Young. So I have I'm not, because I don't know if I'm going to do it yet or not. Obviously, I'm going to bet Xander. I just put in the boost. If anyone watched this show as we did our futures show before the season for the majors, we got Matt Fitzpatrick at 110 to 1. That is the only Masters future that I currently have because I cashed out my Morikawa one because now the number is better. Fortunately, I was able to get my full cash out on it. See if I want to go back in. But you think it would just be crazy to be like, hey, here are my 3 bets this week: Xander, Cam Young, and Matt Fitzpatrick?
No, not at all. I'm probably, I have just a couple of sprinkles of some futures, but I don't think it's crazy at all. I mean, look, you can make the case that this is a more wide open Masters than we've had the last handful of years. You can punch some holes in that argument, but I think it's a valid one. But I still think this is we should be swimming the majority at the top of the pool, and kind of going heavy there, allocating a little bit heavier because you need to make sure you can cover those bets at the top. I think it makes a ton of sense. So some similar names, but I can make the case for a couple other guys at the top too.
So it was over 18 strokes gained tee to green?
Correct.
So that would only leave Morikawa, Rory, Fitz, Fleetwood, Cam Young, Xander, Ludvig, Minwoo, and Akshay as the only winners you have. Blickel during the Valero show did bring up Adam Scott at 80 to 1 as a very good bet.
Like that quite a bit too. Yeah.
But he's 17.5. He's not 18.
Is not top 10 here since 2009. Missed the cut last year. It was his first missed cut in a very long time. But playing great golf, and hard to argue with that. What's interesting is that Scottie Scheffler is on the wrong side of this, and that in itself gives me pause for any trend that would have. And again, we'll obviously get into Scottie at length, but it's kind of fascinating. Rahm and Bryson would be in this as well if we were to grab their last 16 rounds that are in the rabbit hole.
I know that Bryson has the 2 wins and he's coming off those, but it feels like on Live, Rahm has been the more dominant player week over week all season long. We
are like back to pre-Live approach numbers for Rahm, which is pretty exciting. And again, he's not closed the door, but he's been just around and just feels a better fit here in terms of the ability to navigate around the green. Some of the Bryson stuff here is tricky, and he deserves credit for improving his around the green play. He's shown up here and done that well compared to what I maybe thought he was going to be. Just doesn't seem to have the feel and nuance that I think is required around here. Took advantage of like some really soft conditions a couple of years ago, got out to a nice first round lead and kind of held on. But what we saw last year in the final rounds against Rory was kind of what I thought we'd have here. Just occasionally inconsistent on approach, and just doesn't have the around the green chops that the rest of the top tier guys do.
Yeah, and the approach play was actually pretty good through like a few rounds, I believe, a year ago. And you're absolutely right. Just Bryson's approach play isn't very good. It's probably the weakest part of his game. He can be good at it, but he's just driving and putting. And we don't see very many of that type of player win at Augusta. Like even when DJ won, he just dominated all facets of golf at that time. Bryson can get there. He's just never got there at Augusta National. So I'm kind of with you. I'm not that he's going to miss the cut and be bad, but to win and keep that together all 4 rounds, unless it's soft conditions, I feel like when this place firms out, it becomes far more difficult for him. So taking a look at the recent form. So far we've added in that win, top 10, and then the course history into the model that we're building out at betspertsgolf.com/Mayo to get the 25% off. The rabbit hole. It's a great tool. You can do a lot in here, and you might even be able to see things on the screen that we're not seeing that you want to add in. That makes it a great time to get in. But Jake Knapp is actually the best player strokes gained total per round on the year so far. So do you think in terms of that recent form, we got the wins, the top 10s, maybe throw in strokes gained total and give that probably more weight as well?
Yeah, I don't hit it at all. It's just a spot where, to our point with the trend, even if we want to poke holes in the arbitrary starting point, it just, you don't go here and find it. You have to bring some form here. It's very, very rare. And again, Rosie was kind of the outlier. He did have like a T3 at Pebble last year. But again, for the most part, was pretty horrific leading up to it. And that's just kind of a rarity. And again, he didn't get over the line.
The last time that someone won that broke every trend was Hideki. Like Hideki just didn't make sense at all.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, he's, Hideki has these situations where he blacks out, whether it's 9 holes or sometimes like 3 rounds at, in Scottsdale this year. He just can be one of those guys that can go toe to toe with absolutely anybody. He is terrifying to fade, and he's kind of fascinating too. And I think he's, again, fascinating this year too. We'll have to see what he does in San Antonio, but he's just, he's drifting closer to 40, which is really interesting.
One of the other big trends, I believe it's like the past 9 winners have all averaged more than a stroke and a half per round total on the field for that calendar year. So if that's the case, Bryson and Rahm do qualify for that for doing it on live. Other than them, again, it's Fitz, Morikawa, Cam Young, Nikolai Højgaard, Minwoo Lee, Rory, Bridgman, Scheffler, and Knapp. Imagine if Goddard or Bridgman had played in the Masters before, how much steam that they would be getting.
Knapp too. What if Knapp's just a dude? Like it's at the beginning of the year, I was like, all right, it's just putting. It's like
Knapp has played. Did Knapp not play the year that he won Mexico? No, he played in the Masters. He played in 2024. He came T55.
Oh, okay. Well, he's one of the like 5 or 6 guys I haven't written up yet. So again, by the time people are listening to this, I'll have parsed that out. But I did not have Knapp as any previous history. Getting a late add too to the field.
Yes, he was, but he's now firmly inside the top 50 in the world. I still feel bad for Pearson Coody. There's still one more player as of our recording to be added. If someone who's not in wins Valero, then they get in. So we put in the recent form. Do we want to do off the tee approach? Like now that we've covered the form, we've covered the history, what actual skills are we looking for to enhance here?
Yeah, I like to back out to some of what are like the foundational ways that I build models most week when you go into the filter by condition section. And I think some of the top tier, the scoring conditions, the course length, and the field strength are things that I like to look at. So at times, if you just look at anywhere else, you can find normal rolling strokes gain data. It's great and it's better than nothing. But at the same time, like we're really trying to replicate the test of this week. And this is a course with historically difficult scoring conditions. It is a very, very long course that plays even longer than then obviously the yardage, and the field strength is obviously very strong. So I like to look at difficult, very difficult, strong, very strong, long, very long. In the situations where like we're classifying it as difficult, I think you even want to go to average. In this case, I don't think we need to, but I think you really want to pull out easy scoring conditions, short golf courses, and weak fields, because that's really that's not going to give us anything that's predictive for this week. So I think this is a great way to start.
So, I mean, I will add in average scoring conditions only because we've seen that happen at Augusta from time to time, that depending on the weather, depending on the setup of that day, that I don't want to go to easy, very easy, obviously, but I do want – the problem is when you start putting on a lot of these filters is that you don't have enough rounds to make it significant. I mean, people can argue all they want about what is a significant sample in golf, but if it's like 3 rounds, it's going to be like, all right, well, that is not. We can all agree on that. So at least give us a bit more of a sample size. What else would you put into this?
I wouldn't do anything. I would even, I'm okay with looking at the 3 of these together. I probably even bucket them in groups of 2. Like I'll look at, long, difficult scoring conditions. I'll look at long and strong fields. If I'm building my own model, so I would kind of separate them. But I think this is more than enough. I think we can get in a habit to the same point that you're talking about, overfitting. And then we get a really, really, really small sample. So we kick the time frame out from 3 months back into the last calendar year. I think you'll probably get at least 20 rounds or so from these guys.
Yeah, you're right. If we go to the past 12 months, like obviously someone like Carlos Ortiz is looking really good because he had a really good U.S. Open. But I think this is pretty interesting. So if we sort by strokes gained total, Angel Cabrera not doing good in his 2 rounds of the Masters. Ditto for Potgieter, Brian Campbell, Kiefer, and Cam Smith. Although Cam Smith, that was the one guy, spoiler alert, on the Live show. Vincenzi did tell me, like, Cam Smith's starting to play a little bit better. Like, even his underlying metrics, like his driver still sucks, but everything else is coming along. He's even produced some decent results. So on courses like this, Scheffler, Bryson, Rory, no shocker, Ortiz, Rahm, Harry Hall is next.
Harry Hall surprised me, and I was kind of trying to look into it. He just got really hot last year, and he played well in the playoffs, so he's getting credit for the playoff bump. But that's pretty much what those rounds are. Again, it makes sense. We're looking to last 12 months or so. But I was definitely surprised when I was running a couple of like variations of this, and Harry Hall kept coming in. I'm like, where are those Harry Hall rounds from? Yeah, and he played okay at Portrush.
He has gained on putting in every single one of these rounds. He has counted every one. He has not lost strokes putting.
He's essentially, as a good lead-in, he's like 85% Cam Smith, like just before he started winning. So not Cam Smith that like won the Players and won the Open Championship, but like the Cam Smith that would like occasionally pop around. It's just a lot of around the green and a lot of putting. Everything else is just kind of random spike tweaks, but it's just really hard to bank that guy to have any consistency. So yeah, T28 at Portrush. I saw a handful of good starts, like East Lake, but that's really about it.
No Masters appearances for Harry Hall in his career. So other guys on that list: Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson in only 6 rounds. Ludvig, Ben Griffin, Robert McIntyre, Hatton, McNeely, English, Bubba Watson, Haotong, Russell Henley, Spieth, and Reed are up there as well. Then you're into Victor and Xander. You have to add some context to this as well, that Xander was coming off an injury last year and just did not play well.
Yeah, I think you could even go like what I did in my model having this. I backed out to 2 years and then I capped it at 50 rounds. So that, you go even to 3 years.
3 years. Yeah, we'll go last 50 rounds and see if that's a better sample of trying to get some of the guys we want to, not that like you're trying to rig the model to get in, but guys that should be represented. And now if we do that, Xander's third all of a sudden, which makes way more sense considering he's won 2 majors in this time.
Way more sense. Yeah. And again, like you said, like we didn't see him really until Bay Hill last year, and then didn't really have it going at this time last year. And significantly different Xander already.
So now we're looking at strokes. So do we want to take strokes gained total from this? Do we want to take tee to green from this? Like what do you think is the best stat that we can apply to our model when we're trying to project something out?
I think total, right? Because we're looking at scoring conditions too. So sometimes that is tied into the difficulty of the green complexes. So we'll typically look at ball striking and tee to green more than total. But again, I think this is a spot where total makes the most sense.
Long, hard courses. That's the video that we're putting on Brazers, and we're not going to be putting it on
Strong
Mayo Media Network. But okay, so yeah, no real surprises on this list. Reed, Morikawa, Sam Burns does appear here as well in those 50 rounds, which actually surprises me because outside of last year's U.S. Open, I can't remember him contending at a major.
It's because it just doesn't happen. Maybe it's just this time of year, because if you look at it, like he does tend to play better as the year goes along. But like, I don't know, like we have to bury the Bermuda Burns moniker because he just doesn't play well in Florida. Like the last 3 years, the leading form is pretty bad. Like we have a pretty large sample of him being a non-factor. I looked at, there's 56 golfers in the field this year that have played at least 20 rounds in majors over the last 5 years. Out of the 56, Burns is 48th in strokes gained tee to green. That's just not competitive. And he's, again, not like he's priced like a favorite, but he's just not that dude. And he just kind of popped at Oakmont, and that's kind of it.
Since it's Masters Week, I'm going to give away a big prize. Do you want that prize? It's easy. Just hit the description and you can find all of the ways to get into the draw. But the big one to get into that draw for the free HELIX mattress is subscribing to the rabbit hole at betspertsgolf.com/Mayo. If you've already done that, you're already in the draw. As long as you've done it through me, you are good to go. But you can still rate, review, subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast. On Apple, there's 20 ballots. Do it again on Spotify, there's another 20 ballots. Sub to Mayo Media Network on YouTube, 15 ballots. You want to subscribe to the free Mayo Media newsletter with all the up-to-date news, plus bonus content, there's 15 ballots as well. If you're just on social media, hit that retweet. There's one right there. You share the article around, there's 10 for you. It's all listed down in the description. Get your hands on as many ballots as possible to get in that draw for a free HELIX mattress. Now, I do vouch for HELIX mattresses. Go to helixsleep.com/Mayo. Get yourself 20% off site-wide right now. Thanks for supporting the show. Let's get back to it. Byron always brings this up, that basically every single major winner has either a win or a second place finish previous to winning that major at one of the four majors.
Yeah, that's probably pretty good. It's probably better than most trends, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it shows that you've been in contention before you can get over the finish line. Spawn kind of blew that up last year, but he did have, if you want to include the players, he did finish second at the players that year, like in the same season.
That works. Yeah, that works for sure. Davis Riley, look out.
Yeah, Davis Riley, Masters champion. So I just filtered by conditions. I went to all four of the majors and over the past 3 years and put those ones in as well. And I'll just add the strokes gain total in majors just to try to get sort of the form lines, the trend lines, the big event lines taken care of. Then we can reset everything and now think about the stats that matter. Everyone says this is a second shot golf course. Do we believe them?
Yeah, it's just a spot where you have to have the whole bag. I think you have to have lead in form. So whether you want to look at approach, you want to look at approach on long golf courses, you want to look at approach on courses where it's difficult to gain on approach. I think those are all valid ways to go about it. I think you're probably best off covering a few of them because this is, again, a fairly easy place to gain off the tee, right? Wide fairways, and just the rough is not really problematic. Even if you find yourself in the pine straw, as long as you don't have trees in the way, you can kind of get yourself there. It just is a matter of getting to the green, holding the right quarter of the green. So again, another situation similar like a Pinehurst where it's not, greens visited. It's really greens held. So strokes gained off the tee or strokes gained approach is definitely a core tenet of the week.
So if you jump over to the course page, you can see all of the hole stats. If you missed my hole-by-hole breakdown with Michael Kim, shame on you. It's up on Mayo Media Network right now if you want to check it out. We don't have the problem with the Masters. We don't have the wealth of stats that we get from every other course. We have some, we don't have a ton. So when we're trying to look through everything, you can go back and check out the strokes gained by year on the course page. You can see them as a rank or a round average or a total. And we dig into each player, we can figure that out a little bit more. But when we put it in right now, what do you want to do for the approach numbers? Do you want to take what they've done this year, past 3 months, and just add strokes gained approach?
I think it's a good way to go about it. I would add more if I was building out a full model, but I think if you just want to look at recent form there too, that's a good way to go about it.
So let's say past 3 months, strokes gained approach in the Masters field, your best players: Siwoo, Scott, Morikawa, Berger, Fitzpatrick, Brooks, Akshay Kitayama, Gerard, and Nikolai Højgaard. I am very interested to talk about Nikolai Højgaard as it pertains to this year's Masters, because I think that people will just chalk up his season to, well, he's beat up on some weaker fields. He has been basically the most consistent player of 2026.
He's been awesome. We forget, we've kind of alternated like which Højgaard brother gets to have a good year. A couple of years ago, it was Nikolai's chance. He was very much late Sunday in the smoke, back nine, amen corner, in the mix in that Scottie, right? It was Højgaard, a little bit of Homa, Morikawa was in there, and you're right. He's not picking on just bad fields. He's not getting it done with smoke and mirrors. If you look at kind of the foundational tenets of what we would think would be predictive, he's been awesome at everything this year. Obviously, he has the insane distance to grip it and rip it off the tee. Approach game's great. He's spiking and putting. The around the green play deserves a lot of credit. He's made 12 starts worldwide since the Bay Current in October. He's finished inside the top 24, 9 of those 12 starts. 5 of those were T6 and better, including last week. So he's just getting it done kind of across the board. I think he's definitely interesting in DFS. And if you wanted to take a stab, there's some triple digits out there in the outright market. Maybe put an each way on that. Probably get you down to like 80 or 90, but I think he's pretty interesting.
Reasonable first round leader look as well. You can see he gained 6.4 strokes on the field 2 years ago. He was bad last year at the Masters. He was also just bad last year. So I would have a bit more faith in him. His approach play got away with him. Weirdly, a lot like Bryson, where this was the year that Bryson was the first round leader. And the firmer the course got, the worse it got for Nikolai Højgaard. And I think that you can learn from that going forward in the Masters because his short game is so elite to begin with anyway. But you can see, like, he figured out the greens. It's, you know, it's going to be off and on. Guys are going to have bad rounds, but overall in the positives, the off the tee was fantastic. The approach play really got the best of him the weekend. And I think it started like on I was going to say the back nine, but that would not be correct. The second nine at Augusta National.
Yes.
That I just remember there was one hole, I think it was 15, and he just imploded. And that was the end of Nikolai for that week. But he was in the lead at one point on Saturday.
Yeah, there were some water balls involved too on the weekend too, and that'll obviously crush any strokes gain stuff. But yeah, the T16 really was actually better than that, right? Again, it's not because he didn't close. What happened, but like he just was in the mix, and I don't think that tells the full story.
So we've put in approach into this model. I can show what we have right in now. We have no weights, but we have course history, the wins for the year, the top 10s for the year, the overall strokes gain total recent form, the long, hard courses, strokes gain total. And then SG total, what is this one? For the past 50 rounds, majors recent form. And then we have our approach play for the year. What else do we want to start throwing in here?
I mean, I think people can look at whether you wanted to look at like just the Masters approach. I probably wouldn't. I would look again at like whether it's approach on long golf courses, approach on courses where it's difficult to gain on approach. I think those are some filtering conditions that you can look at. It's a place where you have to have some short game scrambling short grass chops because again, we don't have thick aprons around the green here. We have just shaved runoffs, and that's obviously a different skill set, and I think a far more testing one. And I think it's a skill where like you can go back a bunch of time to like increase that sample because it really matters. So around the green short grass type stuff is, I think, really important.
So we can go to, so this is something that we have here. We have the overall, let's see, where is it? Around the green shot types. We have we have them broken up if that's the way that you want to go about it. You can have from the rough, you can have from the short grass. This is all short grass this week. So let's take a look at the past 3 years.
That's good. Yeah.
Past 3 years, short grass, scrambling percentage. Vijay Singh, 100% on his 5 shots.
It's pretty good.
Because we're not going to get this specific one from the Masters. That's why, I mean, the Masters hides its data for stuff like this. We're working on getting it. Hopefully we can get it soon, but this is just overall for all courses. Like Ortiz has a very small sample, but he kind of pops up. And then it has the guys that you would expect. Fleetwood, Scheffler, Little Marco Penge, Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlory, Jason Day, Robert McIntyre, Jon Rahm, Hideki, Cantlay, Nick Taylor, Kurt Kitayama. These are all guys that pop up. So we're going to put in short grass scrambling and short grass like Mardi Gras.
Short grass.
Short grass. Okay. So we'll throw that in. Just give me some more things to fill this out with now.
Distance has mattered. I mean, you can get away with kind of being middle of the pack distance, right? We've, Willett was kind of there. Even Hideki is kind of middling. Spieth, you can do it, but you really need it. I mean, Morikawa is competitive here without being above average from a distance standpoint, but it's additive for sure. And it's definitely something that I would want to take a look at.
I don't know about that. I think strokes gained off the tee matters here.
Okay.
I don't know if distance matters that much. I think it's helpful, obviously, if you're hitting it long and straight. Another Razors video from Mayo Media Network that's coming out. But
yeah, I haven't combined distance and carry, like driving distance and carry distance collectively in my model at like 7.5%. So it's not something that I'm giving a ton to, but I like the off the tee approach instead. I would look at I would look at off the tee again, similar to those foundational conditions. Yeah, I would look at like long golf courses, or again, comparing field strength, because again, if strokes gained is comparative to the field, right? So you want to make sure that you're kind of weeding out those spots where like, oh yeah, I gained strokes, but it was at the Byron Nelson off the tee. Like that doesn't really tell me a ton. And Scottie would get kind of amplified that way. He doesn't need any help.
So let's go past 3 years, and we'll do it this way. We'll put in past 3 years for this stat by itself at this style of course. So the long, field strength, very strong. So it's Penge. I'm back on Valero. I was like, Jesper Svensson is not in the Masters. So we'll go back to the Masters and we'll keep our filters on and go back to strokes gained off the tee. Bryson, Rory, Scottie, Xander, Cam Young, Ludvig, Spieth, Rahm, Victor, Collin Morikawa, Penge, Robert McIntyre, Goddard, Siwoo, Straka, Connors, Cantlay. So I want to throw that one in. So driving driving tough course is one thing that we'll go to. And then I'm just going to put in strokes gained off the tee after I reset the filters for just what's been happening so far this year. So past 3 months. Fortunately, we're at the beginning of April, end of March. That 3 months just works out as the perfect sample size of what we're looking for. And then I reset the filter. So we need to go back to the Masters. And we're going to throw in strokes gained off the tee for the year. SG off the tee 2026. Just to see if there's any sort of difference. And I like putting them next to each other in the model as well, just to see if something's different. Because now we have Minwoo, Kiefer, Woodland, Potgieter, Michael Brennan, just names that wouldn't have played in many of these tournaments. The guy that's really exciting for me, and I don't know how good of a week that I want him to have, but Robert McIntyre starts fitting a lot of what we want to look at. His so far this season, and we'll get to him more in detail, but his approach has been really hot and cold. In the weeks that it's been on, he's performed really well. And he's been driving it and putting it like an elite player so far this season.
He is like kind of fascinating. And you make a great point. There's a lot of red there, but you kind of look, and I wanted to look and see, like, obviously it makes sense. If you had a good approach week, you probably had a good week. But if you look, there's one instance in the past 2 years. And again, we're just looking at the PGA Tour starts that we have data in the rabbit hole for. One instance in the 2 years where McIntyre has gained over 2.5 strokes on approach, and he finished outside the top 20. It was last year's Scottish. He struggled off the tee, couldn't make anything. So if he's even competitive, he's like a team no putt guy where we want them to be like kind of average on the greens. We just kind of need Bobby Mack to be average on approach, because off the tee has been pretty great. The putting has been fantastic this year. Those things can obviously regress, but if you look, maybe he found something at Sawgrass. Maybe he shows up in San Antonio, but the 4 lead-in events, he lost almost 17 strokes on approach, basically 1.06 strokes per round before the players. So he's been really bad on approach this year, but lefties with distance, pretty good. His leading form was pretty great last year, but then he missed the cut. So he's just too expensive for me, but he's got that dog in him, Pat. I love, he's got that grinder in him. You don't want him on the leaderboard if like you got an outright sweat and you don't have Bobby Mack, because he's not going away.
No, and he'll make a run at you late too, especially when you feel like he's out of it. Maybe a live betting opportunity on Robert McIntyre. You can see his 3 appearances at the Masters on the screen right now. He's been awesome around the greens, and until he missed the cut last year, terrible approach, terrible putting. But before that, he was getting a bunch putting, constantly gaining off the tee. So if you can pencil him in, like he has not lost off the tee or putting like basically at any point this year. So pencil him in for positives that way. And his around the green historically has been one of the best like ever at the Masters. You're right. If he can just break even with the field on approach, he could be looking really good, especially if it plays harder.
Yeah, I like that for him too. And if we get some weather, who knows what can happen.
All right. So we have off the tee in, approach in from different sizes now. Of ways that we want to look at this. Around the green, we have that short grass scrambling percentage. Do we want to put putting in here? Because I don't know how I feel about putting at the Masters. I've seen too many crappy putters win the Masters.
Yeah, it's fair. It's, big bent grass greens that play really fast. I think if anything that I don't mind looking at, fast putting performances, but I'm with you. It's definitely a tricky thing to model. I don't like to get too caught up in, putting surfaces, especially on bent grass. So yeah, I can go either way.
All right. I'm going to put on that field strength. You know what? I'll even take off. If the scoring conditions are tough, let's just presume it's a difficult tournament. These guys aren't playing in a lot of, difficult non-birdie fests.
Correct.
So if we just go back to that, I'm going to add that SG approach at hard courses. I think we're pretty good right now, just to see what the results give us. I mean, it's going to give us Scottie. It's going to give us Rory. Like, we know the names up. I think the most instructive part for the Masters, this is going to be a little bit tougher because you kind of know the guys that you want. But I think this is where we can reveal our sleepers a little bit, that they can kind of present themselves to us if we do this right. If you're looking to recreate this model, or if you want to pull it up, betspertsgolf.com/Mayo, you click on this expert models. It will be in here the moment that we stop doing it. You can see all the ones from Valero, including the one I did on this show last week. And Ryan's is in there as well. So let's go to create model and how we want to put this. So we're going to go Masters, Mayo research show. So you guys can pull this one up as well. I'll go click on the expert report right now. How do you want to weight this? How would you weight course history versus anything else? 15% sound good?
15 sounds good.
And for recent form, do you want to give that 15% weight between the three that we have?
Yeah, that's a good way to 5 apiece. Yep.
I was going to say like 7.5 for the recent form, and then we'll go like 2.5. Yeah, let's go like 3 and 3, see what that gives us. Yep. 3 and 3. 3 and 3 for the wins in the top 10s, just to give that a bit of an extra weight to find some guys that should pop trend-wise. Long, hard courses, we'll go 10%, 15% maybe?
Yeah, 10 to 15. We'll see what we have left.
Strokes gained total at majors will go 10%. Strokes gained approach. How would you do approach on hard courses and long courses versus approach generally here? What's the split we should be looking at?
I would lean a little bit harder on the hard courses because we're kind of capturing a little bit of the recent approach form in our recent form wins type section. So again, if you're ever going to be, and you're going to be double counting in making models and doing this stuff, if you're ever going to be double counting, something in the ball striking field is probably fine.
Do we want to throw in par 5 scoring?
I have par 5 scoring in my par 5 average, but you can sell me on birdie or better. Yeah, lots of different ways, strokes gained, par 5s. We have all that added in there now too.
Yeah, let's just look at that for the year. We're going to reset all again, and we're going to go to 3 months, and we're going to go to Masters, and we're going to go to par 5 efficiency, where you can get it, birdie or better average by length of hole. I think just looking at par 5s overall is very instructive here for what guys have been doing this season. Who has the best par 5 average this year? Knapp, Minwoo, Scheffler, Morikawa, Rory, McNeely, Goddard, Ludvig, Fitz, Hideki, Straka, Hall, Gerard, Henley, Akshay. A lot of Akshay popping up on this list. You think he's okay after missing the cut in India?
I think he's okay. I think it's good, really cool for him to go over and get that done. Interesting that he wouldn't want to go to Valero, a place that he's played pretty well at. But I understand kind of the way the schedule pulled him. Wouldn't worry too much about his performance there. He's been absolutely awesome this year. Which I'd love to see.
Yeah, and I mean he's a lefty. That's always helpful, right?
I mean, shot shaping, got a pro in the bag. There's just a lot of encouraging Bhatia signs if you were looking to go. I mean, obviously the lean in form with, T6 Pebble, Phoenix was a T3, Riv, was in the mix, Sawgrass was great, and then wins API. There just hasn't been a bad start.
All right. So we have to lose a few here. So let's go 5 and 5 for the driving numbers. We'll throw that in. And maybe we'll bump down strokes gained approach coming in to 7.5. Now we can go 2.5 and 2 for those like trend lines that we were looking at. Now we're there. So if you want to go replicate the model, you can do that. Masters Mayo model on betspertsgolf.com/Mayo. Get yourself the 25% off. Let's save that as an expert report. Let's save and generate this and see what we got going on. Charlie Hoffman is number 1 because I selected Valero Texas Open. Of course I did.
Oh, look at Cooch.
There we go. Scottie Scheffler comes in at number 1, not Charlie Hoffman. Although, hey, listen, maybe that's perfect. Charlie Hoffman loves being first-round leader despite not being in the field for the Masters. Scottie, Morikawa, Xander, Rory, Tommy, Ludvig, Henley, Matsuyama, Siwoo, Fitzpatrick, Hovland, and McNeely. Those are the top 12. And of course, Rahm and Bryson and all the live guys are just not going to be represented accurately because we just don't have the in-depth live stats that we do anywhere else, correct?
Yeah, for the most part, again, depends on how you want to go out and build it and kind of manipulate, to your point. Like, you can decide if you just want to handle those two separately, know that they're probably going to be in the mix. On the model that I built, I do have Hatton at 10. He's actually in the top 10 and Bryson is not. Bryson's 12 in my model, but I do, and Rahm is 3rd in mine. So there are ways to go about it, but I understand, how we kind of manipulated things. It was a little bit more 2026 based. Wasn't going to capture those guys.
Yeah. I like, look, when you see no guys who win the Masters outside of Hideki are playing bad golf coming in. It just doesn't happen.
Does not happen.
So who else would be down this list? That'd be surprising. There's McIntyre. There's Nikolai. Lowry is shockingly up here. I don't know how that happened.
Lowry, he's actually, he folded like a cheap shirt here on Sunday last year. He was in one of like the final groups with Scottie.
I remember.
It was rough. But he actually has fairly decent course history. Has played here pretty well. It was good to see him show a pulse in Houston because it had not been good since the collapse at the Cog. But yeah, I mean, Bay Hill and Sawgrass was kind of rough. Yeah, I mean, he lost 8.92 strokes to the field on Sunday. He shot an 81. Was actually pretty rough. But yeah, not a guy that I want to back here. But look, I mean, T3 here a couple years ago, some other like 16, 21st. He's been kind of in the mix. The last 2 years kind of faltered a little bit. Not a guy you would think would be in the mix here at all. But again, short game is pretty good, right? And if he has dialed up a little bit on the irons, he can pop, but not of interest to me.
Has lost strokes putting at the Masters in 3 consecutive years after gaining in each of the 4 years before that. The approach play has been good by and large. Even last year it was still pretty good. The driving really got away from him, especially late, like you said, on Sunday. We take a look like round by round. Yeah, minus 8.92, as you said, in round 4. It was pretty good before that. We always do see this, that you have your guy in terrible form. Like Charles was a good one that you had mentioned from before. Like he just shows up out of nowhere and you just kind of go with the history. Would Lowry kind of be that guy for you? Maybe not so much as a bet, but like DraftKings at $8,200.
Yeah, you could sell me that. I think Connor's right next to him, right behind him in the model. Connor's has been a little bit better of late, a little slow start, but like Connor's has insane course history here. And obviously he was in late tee time here last year. Multiple T10s and like 4 of the last 5 years, I think, something crazy. He's just constantly in the mix here. It's kind of your point of if you can get around here ball striking tee to green, you can get some team no putt guys that are pretty elite tee to green that will have those weeks. So he's kind of would be a preference over Lowry.
Top 10s 4 of the past 6 years and has actually gained on the greens in 3 of the past 4. Shockingly, he chipped himself out of the 2 events that he was terrible in 24 and 23. He's T38 and missed the cut in 1. He just chipped himself out of the tournament.
Yeah, we didn't have strokes gain data here for a while. Like you said, we still have limited data. They hold some stuff back. But since we've had strokes gain data, we have only Morikawa, Scottie, and Xander better than Connors at 0.77 strokes gained approach per round since we've been tracking strokes gained.
So that is Corey Connors. Also on that list, you have English, Akshay, Cam Young. Cam Young's a lot lower than I would have thought. I wonder why that's the case. Scrambling on short grass, pretty low, and I put that at 10%. Maybe I have that overweighted. There's always ways that you like, if things don't look right to you, you can always go back and readjust everything as well. That's one thing that I try to do later on in the week. It doesn't make a very compelling program as we're talking through this, but I think it's something that people should be doing. He's basically top off the tee and on approach. That was Straka, sorry. Off approach at these courses. He's 73rd in the field. Wow, at difficult and very difficult courses, long and very long, Cam Young has been brutal.
So think about where we were last year coming into this, right? He had great back-to-back top 10s, but his form was terrible. He came in last year. He had missed the cut at the Genesis, the Cognizant Classic, API, and Valspar leading up. He was going off at triple digits in some of those fields and like just completely flipped everything on his head. So we do have some stuff in here that's capturing 18 months on long golf courses, difficult fields. That's going to capture the Genesis. That's going to be Arnold Palmer. And he was terrible. So some of that stuff is not super predictive of how he's been as of late. And like that, there's going to be some guys like that just, some of the old data is not really kind of capturing where they are now. We would probably get some of that with Bridgman or Knapp or even Akshay. Cam Young's probably no different.
Cam Young at the Masters. I remember the year I did my broadcast live from Vegas that he popped up. He finished top 10 those years. He's been cut twice and top 10 twice and comes in fantastic. He checks all the form boxes that you would want.
Would love to find a 30. I mean, it feels gone. Seen some, friends that have some pretty big Cam Young numbers. I think the best I can see in the market is like 25. Checking all the boxes right now.
Yeah, 23 at coolbet.com. And that even that feels generous based on some spots where I'm seeing 20 to 1s and 18 to 1s on his number. Victor's on this list. Like Victor's actually a lot higher on this list than I would have expected. Is he someone that you think that might be able to ever get it done at Augusta with his like weird, because like Bubba Watson, like where else was he ever going to win that wasn't Augusta? Because he can't chip, he can't putt, he ball strikes the hell out of the ball. But there are some guys that just get comfortable chipping and putting at Augusta that can figure it out. Could Victor be one of those guys?
It's weird. I mean, I haven't looked at it lately, but I'm pretty sure Victor is one of those guys, and you would think it would be the opposite because pro golfers will tend to tell you that scrambling, or like approach proximity on like from the rough is a little bit easier for them. It's the short stuff that ends up being a little bit trickier, but I'm pretty sure we have inverse splits for Hovland where he's actually a little bit better around the green on the short stuff. We've seen he's been okay here around the green, like compared to some of his other performances at times. So I don't know. He's so fascinating. There's so much talent. I mean, one of the coolest sporting events I've ever been to was like walking around for 4 days with Victor at Olympia Fields, having a solo single bullet ticket on the guy, and to watch him go absolutely nuclear on Sunday, being on the property was great. Forever a fan. But we have not returned to that stage. And never really even been close. The tinkering, you can't get out of his way. He's like losing strokes, like he's ball speed. Everyone's going up on ball speed. Victor's going the other way on ball speed. Like, I don't know what to do with it. So he's a cross off for me. Definitely a fan, definitely rooting for him, but he's not showing anything that would make me want to back him.
Well, let's try to figure this out by going to the very top of the board, and we'll go through the odds and try to break down at least the top 10 in the players that we want to be looking at this week. Obviously, Scottie Scheffler is going to be number 1. Did his wife have the baby yet? Because I have not seen that.
I know. I was trying to like write him up, and I'm like, did we have the baby? Am I giving them congrats? Because we haven't seen or heard anything. So I think so. But yeah, I mean, we could have got some answers in Houston because we obviously have some questions. This has not been a spot, not something that we've had questions about, but he has lost strokes on approach in 5 of his past 12 rounds. For the season, Scottie Scheffler is at 0.08 strokes gained approach after 3 straight years of being north of 1.25 per round. We shouldn't be surprised if he shows up and is awesome, but like it just kind of started as this like weird first round hiccup thing. And then it just kind of floated away at Bay Hill and Sawgrass, 2 places where he's won multiple times in the last handful of years since he's kind of been this dude. So I don't know, but this lead in form, 6 top 25s, a win, 2 other top 5s would be insane lead in form for anybody else. For Scottie, we're like, well, what the hell do we do? Because he's 5-1, right? Like he's tough to stomach when he has great lead in form, when he's kind of in this range, but when he doesn't have it, and we haven't seen him for a while, he's just easier to bypass. And like we could all spend a ton of time talking about all these other guys, and he can curb stomp us in a pretty severe way. I would not be surprised, but I don't know. Just haven't seen it.
Currently plus 550 at coolbet.com. I have a feeling we're going to see like a 7-1, 8-1 on Scottie by the time Monday rolls around.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably still not doing it, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating. Yeah. I don't want to like get off topic, but like the Rory one's the same. Like the Rory number right now is fascinating to me. He's like 550, 6-1 last year. We're doubled up. He's like 11. You're going to find some 12s. You're going to have a Pat Mayo boost on Coolbet to get him to like 13. Like, I don't know. It's these 2 at the top are part of why I think the community seems to think we're more wide open and probably safer chasing a little bit down into the next tier than we've been in years past.
Well, let's take a look at Bryson, because at coolbet.com right now, he is now the 2nd favorite on the board. Does that surprise you?
No, people love him. And I think he's fun. He's fascinating. I get it. I sure as hell hope he's in contention because I think it makes for, better golf. He's won obviously back-to-back stops on LIV. He hadn't won on LIV since like just before the PGA last year, Korea in May. So we did have like a handful of events where like even before the wins, Hong Kong, beginning of March, P24 was not really competitive. The first event to start the year, same thing, tail end of last year, UK, Chicago, Indy, did not crack the top 10. And we're talking about a 54-man field where some of these guys are just non-competitive. So again, he has these ceiling outcomes that where he can go out and get it done. It's just always to me going to be PGA Championship, US Opens, because of what we touched on. It just, the short game is improved. It's not to where his peers are. It's not in Scottie, Xander, even Collin's field. And again, the approach game is just not good enough. So it's tough. If you look, some of these other guys, like I touched on, his scrambling rate here, those guys are all like 62% or greater. Scottie's almost 69%. Bryson's at 56.2%. since we've been tracking that at Augusta, and that's below tour average. So even though he's improved, he's still below tour average. He just has to be kind of perfect here to get it done ball striking wise. And I think that's a tall task.
Yeah, and a lot of his numbers are actually thrown off by what he did a year ago and gained 6.5 strokes around the green. He had a few chip-ins that really goes a long way in inflating those numbers, but he lost severely each of the 5 years previous to that. And you can see he's only gained with his irons once in the past 6 years at Augusta. So if you're bad at chipping and you're not hitting greens, it's a bad recipe.
Yeah, click into the 2024 T6. I bet a lot of that's first round, right?
It mostly is first round, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so 2.04, and then everything else was like barely, and then he lost in the first round. Where you had, again, really soft conditions in round 1 there. So, yeah, I get it. There's just no way I would bet him at that number here. And again, especially relative to like the next 3-4 guys behind him.
So Rory is now third on the betting board. He is 11-1. I have a feeling we're going to see 14s and 16s because no one wants to bet on the defending champion. It is hard to defend, obviously. There's a lot that goes into it. But I think that where we're freaked about Scottie and his form so far this season, I'm not convinced that Rory's form is like all that bad. He got hurt, then he had like the world's worst putting performance at the Players. You know, the first 2 times we saw him, it was a T14 and a second place finish.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like if you want to make the argument and just straight up, I'm crossing him off. I'm not backing any defending champ. Sure. I'm not going to argue with that logic. We don't see it very often. Okay. And his leading form was better last year, right? He won the Players. You know, he was, Pebble, like he was playing fantastic. He's playing really well still. And to your point, like if we had questions about the back, right, he led the field in strokes gained off the tee, or second in strokes gained off the tee, led in distance, was
at the
great
Players.
tee to green in the Players the last time we saw him. So like the back isn't the issue. You're just simply having to tell me that there's really no price where you would click the defending champ. I'm not there. I'm not dying to bet him, but like, man, you're going to tell me we're going to get to 15 or 16. That's tough, man. That's like, there's just nothing here that makes me think he can't go back and get it done. You could think of maybe some of the things we were telling ourselves coming off of last year's win, which we didn't see, but like the thought of, well, maybe he's freed up now and maybe we see this run. Well, maybe he comes here freed up a little bit this year with, having some of those questions answered, can kind of breathe and laugh about it versus having the pressure. So again, I understand why he's a cross off for some, but we're talking about someone went off at 556 last year, and now you're going to tell me he's double, and his form is almost just as good.
First, 22nd, cut, second, cut, fifth. His past 6 appearances, at Augusta National. It's wild that he lost strokes putting when winning the Masters last year.
I know. Yeah, it was just an incredible event. It's gonna be hard to top the theater of last year. It was great, but like, yeah, I don't know. I'm saving room, trying to make some decisions at the top, and like the Rory thing was real tough. I talked to Feinberg about it. We were talking, and he's just kind of same. He's just like, hey, it's blindly not backing the defending champ, and I totally understand that. But I think if you're just chasing relative value, it's hard not to think Rory at 12 is pretty solid value.
Yeah, but what would be the number that would get you to go in on him? Like, I assume it would be 20-1. You saw a 20-1, you'd be in, right?
Blindly in. Yep, absolutely.
But what if he was just, because you can blindly say, like Jeff said, I don't want to bet Rory McIlroy. But what if you look at the odds board on Tuesday morning and he's the same odds as Ludvig and Tommy Fleetwood?
I'm in. At 16, I
think we'll see a 16. I really do.
Yeah. And like, are you there too? Or are you thinking I blindly can't back the defending champ?
Well, no, not at all. I think that Rory could win this. The issue for me becomes that by the time his odds hit that level, I'll probably already have bets in. Correct. That I can't bet like 5 guys at 20-1.
Yeah, no, you can, you shouldn't. We advise that you don't do that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I understood questions if we had like back issues, and I had him at API. I thought he was going to be in a good position to make a charge on the weekend. But then we saw him at the Players, and I feel like he answered that. So at this point, to me, the concern shouldn't be injury related, right? Well, we have Morikawa, being injury related. Like the Rory thing to me is just that he won last year. And so we're so funny with form too. Like we want to chase form, but as soon as you win, like, well, I can't click. He won last week. And it's like, well, that's so ridiculous. Like, so I get it, but yeah, you make a good point. That's kind of what it is, right? Am I going to have Rahm and Xander already on the card? And that makes it really hard to make Rory play no matter where he falls. But like, I'm struggling with it right now.
Think you know ball? Prove it on Underdog and Bet the Bracket. build a tourney bracket for free and see if you can outlast the rest for a shot at $100,000 in prizes. If you're a bracket bust, don't worry. You can turn your bets into real money all tourney long with prediction markets on Underdog. Available right now in most states like California, Texas, and Florida. Head to the Underdog app and put your bets to the test. With prediction markets, you can bet on money lines, spreads, and totals throughout the tournament, all in one place in real time. New markets drop every round from the opening tip to the final buzzer. So, if you love college hoops and think you know how each round will unfold, Underdog is where you make your bets. Download the Underdog app today and use promo code MAYO to get started. Prediction markets on Underdog. Available in your state. Rahm, I think, is going to generate the most interest of everyone near the top of the board right now, which is not anything I think people would have said probably even 6 months ago. But with Scottie at 5-1, Bryson at 10 or 11 or 12-1, Rory at 11 or 10-1, Rahm comes in at between 12 and 16-1, depending on where you're looking. And the numbers aren't going to be reflective from what we've seen just in overall results. But his live run right now is pretty immaculate. And even last year, like here are his last run of majors: 34th, 7th, 8th, 14th, 5th at the Olympics, 7th at the Open. Then he was cut at the 2024 PGA Championship. And I think that's a pretty phony T8 from the PGA Championship last year the other way. He was second place at the PGA Championship last year until he knew that the only chance he had to win was fire at pins that you can't fire at.
Correct. Yeah. I had to take it there too. So yeah, he was definitely aggressive, and it is kind of a phony TA, but not a backdoor TA, but like you said, it kind of drifted. Like we're looking back at basically pre-live approach numbers for Rahm right now. His leading form the last couple of years, he was at like for the year 0.39 strokes gained on approach in 24, 0.45 last year. We're up to 0.93. So double on approach so far in 2026. Like you said, he hasn't won, but he's just always in the mix, first or second in 4 starts. The only other time, like he had like a solo 5th at Singapore, which is like his worst finish of the season. He's just trending really well. He's got kind of the whole game here. I mean, he spotted the field 2 strokes in his win year. He's got that around the green play. He's still long off the tee. And if we have a significant improved approach player, he's really interesting. There's just no way that if you're having to make a Bryson or Rahm decision, I don't understand, other than like just fanboy, why you would ever click Bryson over Rahm.
Yeah, Rahm does have the one win this year too.
Yeah, that's right. He got the first dub in a long time.
Yeah, so that worked out really well for him. Yeah, and just no finishes worse than 6th. I get that there's only like 6 good guys in the field, but he's doing it every single week. Like the last time that his game was this consistent was when he went on that Scottie type tear before Scottie became Scottie. What year was that? 2023, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, remember the Memorial?
Yeah, here it is. Here's the run right here. It was won Kapalua, won the Amex, 7th at Farmers, 3rd in Phoenix, won the Genesis, and then he ended up winning the Masters to start that year after a WD at the Players Championship. So that's pretty. We just haven't had that sort of. The only guy who's putting together a run like this right now is Goddard.
Yeah,
and he's never played the Masters.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, I'm very intrigued in Rahm. I was hoping that we would see some bigger numbers, but we've already seen him kind of drift the other way. So the 12s feel like they're probably pretty good.
So of those top 4 guys, it sounds like we both agree that we like Rahm the most. That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
I know. I'm trying to learn from mistakes made last year, but I feel like my card's going to look eerily similar at the top than what I did last year. And I think we'll get to another one of those guys here next. But yeah, the Rory thing is what's going to give me pause. I will maybe have to wait on Rahm to see if Rory drifts. Because if you're going to tell me I'm going to get 3 or 4 more points on Rory versus Rahm, that's appealing. That would be different. If they're kind of by each other, again, I make kind of the same decision that everyone else seems to be making and going, hey, red line through Rory, defending champ, give me Rahm to kind of bounce back.
Ludvig is up next. He's 16-1. Obviously, he of fantastic Masters results. He's sort of, he took the mantle of Will Zalatoris, now that Will Zalatoris isn't in the Masters and barely plays golf anymore. Ludvig has 2 appearances at Augusta, a 7th and a 2nd. Had a 2nd in his debut. Did not really hit his approaches all that well a year ago, but he continues to drive it and putt it, and weirdly even chip it last year fantastically. He was better 2 years ago than he was last year. Even his solo seventh last year felt a bit backdoory, that he got better at. It felt like he got better as the week went along, as some other guys. It was really Saturday. Saturday, he jumped back into the mix and then kind of treaded water the rest of the time. He made some long putts last year too, like where it looked like he was dead and would just make a 40-footer. It's like, all right, yeah, I guess he's not making double bogey, he's making par.
Yeah, he likes to putt on fast greens. If we kind of do one of the filter situations that we did building the model, if you look at the last 2 years, long golf courses, strong fields, difficult scoring conditions. If you kind of filter out for some of the smaller sample stuff, put a minimum round filter on it. Ludvig, 1.77 strokes per round. That is fifth in the field. And again, it's Scottie, Rory, Xander, all those guys that are just a little bit ahead of him. So he's played his best golf on these types of tests. Interesting to see how people react to the Sunday at the Players. Maybe something happens at San Antonio that maybe answers those questions. I don't know. I think just in general, you should probably not count or worry about that too much. But I worry about just the sentiment in the marketplace in terms of people clicking him early.
There's a lot of invested money already in on Ludvig at bigger numbers than this for the Masters, that if it's a good week in Texas, then it stays the same or even kind of gets higher towards that Rahm. And I just don't know how much he drops if he had, like, he would have to have a disastrously bad week. Like where the whole narrative would become, man, he's not over what happened at the Players. He can barely hit the ball.
But then even where he's short of 20, he maybe goes to 2022. And that's still, still interesting.
Xander Schauffele. I do have him boosted up at coolbet.com right now. If you hit the description, just click on that link. You'll get your deposit bonus and a 27-1 for the Masters on Xander Schauffele. He fits the bill. He's the right age. He's 32 years old. He's played a ton of Masters in his career. He has great course history at Augusta and comes in with some pretty sparkling form in his past 4 starts: 4th, 3rd, 24th, and 7th. It's pretty good.
He's good at the game. I think 2025 was kind of just a failure to launch in a lot of ways. He missed the West Coast swing. Never really found his footing on the year. He had kind of one of his worst years in the last little while compared to his baseline. Like he didn't even gain a full stroke, and he's been way above that in his career, and he's just fully back. Masters history, like you mentioned, finished inside the top 10, 6 of the past 7 years. Just only Scottie has more strokes gained tee to green on average over the past few seasons than Xander. He's kind of fits all of it, right? Like he's good around the green. When the putter gets hot, he's awesome. He's a fantastic approach player, still continuing to add distance, gaining off the tee. Absolutely love him. Love the boost is a fantastically off market number, because I think I'm not seeing anything north of 18, which I still think is totally viable. So I've used some boosts already to kind of chip away at it. So I'll probably kind of continue to do that. Like I have, maybe a third of a piece at like 32 using a boost. I'll use some more live boosts that we get over the weekend at different places to kind of piece together a full Xander ticket, because he's 1,000% in the card.
Next one is Tommy Fleetwood. Fleetwood is coming in as high as 23-1 right now. He's the one guy that's drifted a little bit, and that has to do with Rahm and Xander moving up and Fitzpatrick moving up and Young moving up. That Tommy hasn't done a ton this season, but he still hasn't been bad this season. A lot of his issues are really like when you take a look at his baseline numbers, like year over year, his approach is way down in his 16 rounds versus what it was last year when it really did spike. But his driving's been good, his around the green's been good, and his putter flipped back to being kind of bad, which in a very limited sample of 16 rounds is not shocking. Yeah,
it's a small sample. Again, like you mentioned, we have 3 top 10s in the last 4 starts. Approach numbers are good. Again, I think, solved some issues last year. Good to see him find the winner's circle. Has really been competitive. Like he's really no different, except there's, the wins next to the name, because he's just kind of the same guy he's been year over year, kind of every year, right? Just the around the green play maybe a little bit better, approach a little bit worse, but we're kind of still dealing with some small sample stuff. So it's a little rich for me compared to some of the other guys that are right around him. But I understand if someone wants to click a 25 on Tommy, it won't be me.
T21, T3, T33, T14, T46 in his past 5 Masters. His best Masters was the 2024, where he gained across the board and ended up coming T3. My guy, win a lot of money if Matt Fitzpatrick wins the Masters. I don't know if I would reinvest at 23-1. Not going to lie to you.
Little rich, but hard to ignore. I mean, like there was a stretch from like June of 24 to the 2025 PGA where he had one T20 in 20 starts. He seemed lost. The short game, which is always kind of his North Star, was gone. The ball striking was bad. He has been awesome. Made 23 starts since that Quail Hollow PGA. He's landed in the top 10 in 12 of the 23 starts. Obviously some big wins. DP World Tour win, knocking off Rory late there in the swing season. The Valspar win, obviously last time out. Obviously nearly won the Players Championship. There are a lot of buying signs really outside the price. So kudos to you. You have a great number, but I'm with you. I'm not jumping in at 20 to 26.
I think that he should be considered that of like, if you wanted, like, as I mentioned before, if you just wanted to go Cam Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Xander, make those your 3 bets, I think you're going to have someone in one of those guys will be on the final 2 groups on Sunday.
Yeah. He's never really threatened the leaderboard here at the top, but like
his best year is actually the Willett year, I believe.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Masters year 2016. Yeah, he was T7 that year. That was his debut at the Masters from that year. But, T4, he's never missed the cut at the Masters. That's always a good sign.
It is.
Had a top 10 3 years ago. Like, he's always kind of around. And the thing that's sunk him the past 2 years has been his crappy approach play. But let's take a look how he's doing on approach now. Green. Lots of green.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been awesome. So, yeah, I like it. Finishing position bet. I think he's a solid staple in DFS lineups. I would not be surprised if Matthew Fitzpatrick won. He's the lead in form, is checking all the boxes. And he's rich at this point.
The most popular future on the board is Cameron Young, coming off his Players Championship win. We have not seen him since because he pulled out of the Valspar, which he was going to play. Then he's like, nah, can't do it. A lot of green on the board for him, especially off the tee. His approach play has started to get better. Should have saw it coming when he did it at the Genesis Invitational. It started to spike a little bit. We've never seen him play this well in his career. This is the best he's ever played coming in. He has the top 10s at Augusta already. He has a win already in the calendar year and a big win at that. He's doing it all across the board right now. And we already looked at his Masters sample size. Will he be the most bet on player?
Yeah, I think when you combine some of the, future numbers that people have and people have been betting, these future numbers pretty much as soon as he started to show a pulse at Sedgefield. And I understand it, so he's really tough to jump into now. Still fascinating. I'm still considering it, to be honest. We'd love to see him float out a little bit, but he's not even going to give us a bad San Diego or San Antonio showing that we could kind of change the sentiment at all. He's got the whole thing firing. Right when he came out in 2022, there were some really good performances, but I feel like he believes it even more right now too. And I think that there's definitely something to that. I mean, we saw it obviously down the stretch at the Players where he really went for the win, which we absolutely love to see. Great fit. I think it just pretty good chalk overall, whether it's DFS or on the betting board.
Next player is Justin Rose, someone who people do have some pretty decent futures on. Obviously, the first round leader here a year ago, lost in a playoff to Rory McIlory, won the Farmers already this year, and then his form has just kind of gone away. He was okay at the Players, but his driving has went in the tank. His chipping has gone in the tank. I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, this is kind of what he did last year too, where he kind of popped a little bit at Pebble and then went away. He's just kind of a tough, he doesn't ever model well. And so when I see people like on Rosie, it's definitely for the people that have, probably more feel-based styles than we do. Maybe we're, leaning in the data, and he just randomly does nothing. And he just never really models well. So,
and weirdly, all of his best results too have come at like these really high-end events, like going back to 2024, T2
Correct.
at the Open, T3 at Pebble Beach signature event, T8 at API signature event, T2 at the Masters, T6 at the Scottish Genesis Open, T16 at the Open, won the first leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs. The only one he didn't do that in was the Farmers. That wasn't a signature event.
Yeah, even going back, I mean, T6 at Valhalla, T2 at Troon. So Bay Hill last year, Pebble last year. He likes the limelight. He likes the show.
His form at Augusta is really spotty though. He's not as he has been excellent, but he's not been as good as I think that people remember. Like second cut, 16th cut, 7th, 23rd cut. That's his past 7 years.
Yeah, he's not the there's another Euro who's actually, got a green jacket that people think has great course history, who was awful course history here. Rosie's a little bit better than that, but yeah, the trend line tells us miscut, which again, that'd be a silly reason to make a bet, but yeah, like you said, he's just very unpredictable.
Who is that other Euro?
Sergio has terrible course history here. Terrible.
It is true. How about Patrick Reed, former Masters winner, has won twice on the DP World Tour already this year, running down Rory over in Dubai. I think that there was a lot of hype for him earlier. He just hasn't played in a while now.
We haven't seen him. Yeah. I mean, the 2 wins in January and early February killed that number. I don't know what to do with him because we haven't seen him. So there's definitely, there's juice has been squeezed there for sure. It's kind of tough to jump in now, but yeah, he just seems to come here like 3rd, 12th, 4th, the last 3, 8th, 5 years ago, just last 5 years since we have the strokes gain data, 1.92 strokes per round. He gets it done all the ways. Just occasionally will kind of pop on approach, but we know on and around the greens, he's awesome. He's kind of had some nice chase down Sunday finishes even last year. Yeah, he's tricky. I wish we'd seen him, but obviously he has a feel for this place and absolutely loves it.
Yeah, so Patrick Reed, since leaving Live, which was this year, and to look back at his Masters history on the screen right now, 3rd, 12th, 4th, 8th. Those are 4 of his past 5 finishes, and there was even a T10 before that. So he's finished inside the top 12, 5 of the past 6 years at Augusta. He hasn't played since the Joburg Open on the African/DP World Tour merge event. He came T10, and that was the middle of February. But his results so far in the year, he has played 5 times, first, 2nd, 29th, 10th.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because he's, especially during the swing season, maybe this is just like the time he likes to take vacations because he plays all the time. Like he's looking for who's got a tee time, who's got an event. I'm in, I'll fly wherever. And he's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna take March off and then get ready for early April.
Collin Morikawa is next. Collin Morikawa withdrew from the Players with a back injury. He then, after 1 hole, he then was in the field for Valero, and then he withdrew before the tournament on a Tuesday. He fit every trend line coming in. He was going to be an amazing pick, and now his number's in the mid-30s.
What do we do here? I mean, you're a Morikawa guy, right? I would say that you're a Morikawa guy, but you will tend to click on him. It's not someone that you have a problem clicking on. He's arguably, and again, this is a guy with 2 majors. He's arguably playing the best golf of his career right now. He is outstanding. He's gained an average of 1.65 strokes per round tee to green. That'd be the best rate of his career. He's at 1.07 on approach. That's just a bit behind 2021, which is his career best mark. Ball speed is up a little bit. He was like 170, 171 in 24 and 25. He's almost at 174. It's almost like 3.5 miles per hour. It matters. He's basically gone from like PGA Tour average or just a little bit below to like kind of on the high side of the average. Win, finally kind of cracked a win at Pebble, T7 at Riv, solo 5th at Bay Hill. Immaculate course history, even though it's like, oh yeah, for a little while he was kind of caught up with like, well, I have to play a draw here, but then he's like, well, I just got to go back to my fade. He's played well around the green here. He's putted well. I'm just kind of paralyzed with what to do. Like, I don't know how big the number needs to get, but I thought that heading into the week, like coming out of maybe in Houston, when we kind of had the market was just kind of crushed everywhere. He had like 27s, 28s out there, and it felt fair relative to what the other top of the board looks like. And now to your point, and you backed out of it, where you got 35s, and we probably get to 40. And that's tough to pass on. I just don't know, right? Do we have another WD and he's just out and he starts and you're dead?
It's going to get to a point where you have to take the chance. If it gets over 40, if it's 40 or more, I think you got to do it. And just if you're flushing money down the toilet, then that sucks. If you're not someone who likes to bet that way, I don't care. I lose enough as it is that that's at least a value in my mind that if he hadn't WD, and we don't even his back is hurting a little bit more. What does that mean? He needs to get some acupuncture in his back and he'll be fine in 3 days and that's going to be okay. I really don't know how severe the back injury is. If it's that severe, he's just not going to play.
Right. Yeah. It's like he was 20, like we said, we're 27 and we thought it was value. And now all of a sudden we're going to get to 40. I don't know. And maybe the back's nothing. These are independent contractors. We don't have, a union where these guys are forced to disclose their health conditions. He could be really fine and just wants to maybe kind of, hey, I really don't want to go to San Antonio. I'm just going to go and get some rounds in at Augusta and kind of get dialed in, and I'm okay. Like I feel fine. Like, and let's get it done. And then obviously the 40s, to your point, are massive value because I would have probably been really intrigued at 25 if he would have teed it up in San Antonio. So yeah, the 40 is kind of the line of demarcation where I probably jump.
Brooks Koepka is the next player to talk about. Are you in or out on Brooks?
Yeah, I jumped in Houston for the first time. I've just kind of stand on the sideline. It was just kind of hard to ignore how good the tee to green had been. I'm out at price right now. I mean, the putter thing is a real problem. I would have been fascinated to see what his number would have got to if he would have played well for some reason in Houston. Because yeah, we're still pretty much at like 30. There's some shorter than 30s out there. DraftKings I know is a little bit higher than that, but I'm out at price. Just again, another guy that has been in the mix a little bit occasionally here, but also has had some pretty atrocious showings as well. Miscut in 3 of the last 5 years. Yeah, you got up on the screen. Yeah, there's some solid performances before that, but the putter has been a real problem here, and it's been awful everywhere. So it feels like a tough week to kind of back him to get him back on the wagon making putts. Jordan
Spieth, who's starting to play. When you take a look at his numbers, look at these approach numbers. They're gaudy, man.
I know. Are you I don't know. We're paying the tax always, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. 35-1, even if you get him as high as 50-1. Like if he has a good week at Valero, then the number's going to crash even more. If he has like a mediocre week, it probably stays at 35-40. People just want him to play well so badly that they're willing to go in. And this is probably the best he's played coming in since the year that Reed won.
Yeah, 12.2 strokes on approach over the past 3 starts. That's 9th in the field. Spraying it off the tee. You can get away with that here. Distance is still a little bit additive as long as you're not like completely burying yourself in the pine straw. Has obviously played well at Valero in the past. I think, again, we probably only have one-way movement on his number, and it's already pretty short. So I'm with you. Like, if we were to get to 50, that would be very appealing. Again, he still has always had strokes gained magic beans here. Like, the on and around the green stuff has been pretty fantastic. So, and it's, again, even through kind of some of the dark days of Spieth, like 21, he wasn't playing good golf. Comes here, T3s, and he couldn't make a putt. 23, T4, kind of game throughout the bag, was, in the mix, just kind of a runaway year for Rahm, right? So he's interesting, but price is prohibitive, short of 40.
Honestly, this could be a good first round leader bet.
Yeah, and an interesting live ad too. But again, like we'll always have the Spieth tax, right? He started T2, win T2 here. So like I think it's really hard for some of us old heads to forget that.
Yeah, just there was always the Bart Simpson on the chalkboard. Always play Spieth at the Masters. And, he's been cut 2 of the past 4 years. So let's not forget that part about it as well. But as you mentioned, this is the best he's been playing coming in about a decade at this point. Last guy I really want to jump in and do a deep dive on here is Hideki, with just how terrible he has been off the tee. And you can just see it's been getting better recently. He's still losing, but it's not as bad as it was. But this is a 2-year trend for him now. The ball speed is below average, and he's just losing strokes to the field. After the first 10 years of his career gaining every single year, he's now in the negatives.
Yes, it seems tied up more in bad misses off the tee because the ball speed's kind of flat to where he's been for the majority of his career. It's just that, again, blackout approach game that occasionally kicks in. He was second in approach here last year to Rory at 1.9 strokes per round. He is a fantastic.
I remember I bet him last year to win.
Yeah, and I'm sure you watched him throw darts and you're like, will you fucking hold a putt? And he couldn't do it. So it's just, again, it becomes a numbers thing, right? Where he gets out to 40 or above, and that's going to be hard to not click on. And I don't think we're going to see Spieth above 40. So if I'm trying to make some decisions in this kind of tier of the odds board, Hideki to me is more appealing than, hoping that Bobby Mack, I don't know, that's a tough one. They're similar to me, right? Then you get into some of like the Goddard ups, Henley I love, but I'm not betting Henley here. This is kind of where Akshay sits on the odds board. Like, so kind of a tricky tier of guys. And, I want to take a couple stabs in here, and you could sell me on Hideki. I love the kind of totality of the game. It's just a matter of hole and putts.
I can be sold on Hideki as well. It's just, I'm going to think about that driver that I saw in Phoenix you can spray it at Augusta. You can't spray it like that at Augusta. You can spray it in Phoenix. You can't spray it like that in Phoenix and get away. He was just getting away with it. You can't get away with it like that at Augusta National.
Totally agree. We would say that with Bryson at Pinehurst. right? Like every time he's like, oh, wayward off the tee. Let's see what happens. And then there he was on the right side of the wiregrass. So obviously you have a little bit more hanging trees and stuff here. So I get your point, but like we also have these moments where we know around the green is great.
But the big difference is, I mean, when you take a look at Hideki's strokes gained number, like overall, is that 10 years ago, he was a plus distance off the tee with that ball speed. Now everyone has passed him.
Yeah, that's fair.
And he doesn't have accuracy anymore. Like he's short, he's below average distance, and he's not accurate. It's a bad combo.
Yeah. What's the number where you couldn't avoid him? He gets to 45? 75? Okay. Yeah. What if he gets to 50? Are you clicking?
No.
Okay.
Like you kind of hit on, so like, I don't think I can get there on Goddard. I'd rather bet Goddard at like the Open, I think makes more sense. The US Open. I think he might be a good Augusta player one day, but in his debut, that is a bit tricky for me. However, I would think about, you mentioned Akshay, you mentioned Bobby Mack, Adam Scott. I think those would be the three guys along with Nikolai Højgaard, the four. I don't know if I'm going to get there outright with them, but from the non-Fitz, Cam Young, Rahm, and Xander tier, I think those would be the other four guys that I like this week.
Can I make a case for a guy I was expecting you to make a case for?
Sure.
Min Woo.
No, can't do it.
Okay.
You can't hit approaches. It's better this year. It really has been better this year. It's just I do not trust him to be a reliable long iron player from like, if it was just a wedge fest, I would say yes. Okay. But it's too tricky around here. I like Minwoo too. I bet on Minwoo to win this tournament, and I think that someday he can get there. I've seen it too many times at Augusta where he'll play well. He could be fine. Ryan Fox is another one. It's like, he could be fine here. It could definitely work out for him, but you can see where they blow up as a winner, as a top 20. Absolutely. To win, I feel like there's a different gear, and Minwoo just doesn't have it, because that's also another thing. And one of the trend lines, and I'll talk to Tyndall about that, is basically everyone who has won at the Masters has like 3 or 4 career wins to their credit already.
That's fair. That would be definitely the negative for Minwoo. I mean, he's been good. T6 or better in 3 of his 7 starts. All over top 40 showings. He's definitely been more consistent. Everyone's going to 11 on distance. Minwoo dialed it back. He's dialed it back. He's still top 10 in the on the tour of the season. So it's not like he's Lucas Glover all of a sudden. But the approach stuff is pretty interesting. He's gaining almost 0.3 per round. He was negative 0.5 last year. So we're seeing like almost a 3/4 strokes per round better on approach. We know he's Dr. Chapinski. We know he can hold a ton of putts. Again, he's kind of like you're talking about Hideki, but less distance, where he's spraying it less. So that fairway number has jumped from 55.5% to 62% this year. So like he's sacrificing a little bit of distance, and he's being rewarded for it too. So I get it on the long approach stuff. I feel like overall he's just probably a little bit more better. Change it on the bag. It probably feels a little bit better. He also does check the box of our arbitrary trend at the top, Pat, where he is in the 18 and above strokes gained tee to green over his last 4 starts. So he is one of those 10 that would check that box.
Don't hate him. Just don't like him to win. Maybe like a top 5 even, I think it would be fine. But his odds have been crushed a lot.
I grabbed it off market 66. I think there are 2 books.
See, I'm looking at like a 40 and a 45 right now. I'm like, well, I feel like I can just bet Akshay at 30 more points, and I'm getting a guy who actually wins. Yeah,
DraftKings and 365 had 66s, just before we started at the Valero. But yeah, we're pretty much down to like 50 and change, some significantly shorter than that for sure. So I get it. And I think you make a good point in the long iron thing. But yeah, is a guy that, like, if we were going to have another one of these weird years where it's not, Rory or Scottie, and you want to have kind of one of these next big thing type of guys, again, Minwoo's one of those guys with loud tools, right? He's kind of got the whole bag.
What makes him better than Adam Scott right now?
Really nothing. I love Adam Scott. I thought I was on Adam Scott in Houston. I thought he was going to be, I thought he, played pretty well, just couldn't make a putt. Adam Scott's got weird course history here. Last year he missed the cut. It's the first time he missed the cut in a very long time. Just the putter. He's just significantly worse putting, and probably a worse around the green player. But I like Adam Scott. I think Adam Scott's number is bigger too. So, at price, I think you can get better both, to be honest. I have no problem with Scott.
All right. Noonan, you can check out his article, player by player, up now on betspertsgolf.com, and always throw him a follow and catch him on the Pat Mayo Experience. Enter that draw for the expensive mattress that you will get for free, some cash, some Titleist golf balls. We got a ton of cash and prizes to be given away during Masters Week, but you got to help us out too. And you can do that all for free, except for the big one. Subbing to betspertsgolf.com/Mayo, get you 25% off. It also gets you 250 ballots in that draw, as is subbing to the channel, liking the episode, sharing it around, helping us out during our biggest week of the year. All right, I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!